Okay, so today we're going to be learning about different types of equations. So everything we've dealt with so far has one solution. And so today we're really going to be exploring the cases where we have many solutions or no solutions. So first, some definitions. One solution, mathematically speaking, is just any equation. So any equation that has a solution, x is equal to a, where a is any number. So everything that we've been doing basically is going to have one solution. So our example of this would just be simply, if you solve an equation, you get x is equal to 2, well then that is one solution. Okay. No solution is a little different. No solution is when there is no answer to an equation such that a is equal to b, where a and b are different numbers. Okay, so this is basically when we're looking at no solution and infinite solutions, that's really when we're solving an equation and our variables cancel. So you're going to be getting answers where you have two numbers equal to each other. So for, again, another example is when you solve it, you could get something like 2 is equal to 3. And since 2 isn't equal to 3 in the real world, that's going to be no solution. Finally, the last one that we're going to talk about today are infinite solutions. And infinite solutions are kind of basically what it sounds like, is when any number is a solution to the equation such that a equals a, where a is the same number. So again, this is really where we're looking at the case that, like, you're going to get -2 equals -2. And since those are the same numbers, we would say it's infinite solution. So none of this really means anything unless we put it into practice. But I really want you to kind of keep an eye out this. So if you have like 2 equals 3, you're going to identify it as being no solution. But if they're the same number, that's infinite solutions. So on this one, we're solving the equation, identifying the solution. And the first thing that we're going to do is just go through our basic steps. So my first step is always to get the variables on one side. So I'm just going to start by adding 3 both sides. And when I add 3, it cancels on the left. And I get 4x is equal to 2x plus 16. So let's write that. So now I have 4x is equal to 2x plus 16. All right, I need to get my variables on the same side, so I'm going to subtract 2x from both sides. When I subtract 2x from the right, it cancels, and then from the left, I get 4 minus 2x, which is just 2x. So now I have 2x is equal to 16. And then we're in our last step. Remember, our last step is to divide because we're going to get rid of that 2. So when I divide both sides by 2, I end up with my solution. X is equal to 8 because 16 divided by 2 is 8. Okay. Now, this also has the additional criteria that we're going to identify the solution. So since I got x is equal to 8, that's one solution. So the additional step I'm adding now is that it is writing one solution. That's all you got to do. Find the solution and identify how many it has. And since I got one number, it's one solution. All right, next one's not that simple. I got the distributive property, so let's go ahead and start doing the distributive property. So remember, distributive property is my math rainbows. I'm multiplying 2 to x, 2x, and 2 to -1. So when I do that, I'm going to get 4x minus 5 is now equal to 4x minus 2 and 3. I'm going to combine my like terms, which is this 2 and 3. So -2 minus 3 is -5. So now I'm going to have 4x minus 5 equals 4x minus 5. Now I want you to take a second and kind of make some observations about what you see here. Because what I see here is I have the same equation on the left that I do have on the right. So I'm going to see if that means anything. So let's just go ahead, start solving for x. I want to get my variables on the same side. So I'm going to start by subtracting 4x from both sides. Notice that when I subtract 4x, my variables are going to cancel. I'm not going to have variables anymore because 4 take away 4 is 0, which means it's gone. It's out of there. It has canceled. So that cancels. That cancels. So guess what I'm left with? I'm left with, it helps if we use the right tool. I'm going to be left with negative 5 equals negative 5. Now, pause for a second. Try to see if you can identify how many solutions that is. If you look to the top, because I got negative 5 is equal to negative 5, those are the same numbers. So this is actually going to be infinite solutions. So all I have to write is infinite solutions. So what's nice about these problems is actually they're almost easier to solve because you have less math you got to do. Once you get to this point that your variables cancel, you just have to identify the correct amount of solutions. So let's do another example where we're again trying to identify the amount of solutions. So in this one, I got math rainbows doubly. So I got to multiply negative 1 to 2x into 2, and then also negative 1 to x into 3. So remember when you got that negative on the outside of the parentheses, you're really just multiplying negative 1 in. And I like to think of it as changing the sign. That's what my math teacher taught me, and it just made it a little bit easier than trying to really break my brain over what was going on with the negative. So when I multiply negative 1 into 2x, well, since 2x is positive, the opposite is negative 2x. And again, with the 2, it's going to be minus 2. And then I got that minus 1 hanging out. And then on the right, I still have negative x, which isn't inside the parentheses, but now I have negative 1 times x, which is negative x, and negative 1 times positive 3, which is negative 3. All right, so now I have it kind of where I can work with it. I got some like terms I can combine. So like on the left, notice that I got the negative 2 and the minus 1. And on the right, I got the negative x and the minus x. So I'm going to go ahead and combine those now. So now I'm going to have negative 2x minus 3 equals negative 2x minus 3. Now, maybe you're noticing this, but I have the same equation on both sides again. So at this point, you can actually, if you look up above, we had the same equation on both sides. You can say that this is infinite solutions because it is the same thing on the left as it is on the right. But if you're not comfortable with that, you can go ahead and go to the next step, cancel your variables just to make sure. So if I add 2x, my variables do cancel. So I'm going to be left with negative 3 is equal to negative 3. And again, these are the same numbers, which is what we anticipated. So this is going to be infinite solutions. So I'm just going to write infinite solutions. Also, well, we can't do it on this tool, but you could also, if you're doing it by hand, you could draw the infinity symbol, which is that sideways 8. All right, last one. Let's do some math rainbows. Whenever you see parentheses, you should just really want to dive into those math rainbows. Just like go for it. Math rainbows are for life, right? So we're going to do the distributive property, multiplying 2 into everything. I'm going to go ahead and calculate that. So 2 times x is 2x. 2 times 4 is 8. That's going to equal to 2 times x, which is 2x, plus 2 times 1 is 2, plus 3. Okay, got my like terms. I got to combine my 2 and my 3. So now I have 2x minus 8 is equal to 2x. 2 plus 3 is 5. So 2x plus 5. Okay, so this is pretty cool. I got to cancel my variables. These are not the same this time, so I'm not going to expect it to be infinite solutions. But of course, I got to cancel my variables just to be sure. I know it's not going to be infinite solutions. We're either looking at one solution or no solution. But I'm also canceling variables, which is very promising for it not being one solution, since I'm not going to have an x to deal with. So that cancels, and that cancels. I'm going to be left with negative 8 is equal to 5. Now, negative 8 and 5 are different numbers, so pause it, see if you can identify how many solutions there are. And negative 8 is equal to 5. Those are different numbers, so we're going to say this is no solution. So again, create my text box and no solution. So hopefully this wasn't too hard for you to figure out. It's not terrible, right? You just gotta kind of go through the process, and in fact less math, right? Because we didn't have to go through the process of adding, subtracting, dividing. We just canceled out our variables and identified that there was no solution.